Hey folks, Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist, and in this case talking about this incident where this scientist from UK, Matthew Wilson, 31-year-old guy, was shot in the head while lying in his bed with his girlfriend. He was visiting his girlfriend in the United States in Atlanta, Georgia when this happened. And yeah, we're going to be talking about this because there's a few lessons here to be learned. Before I go on with the video, a few announcements. Tomorrow we're going to be doing live stream with Matt Bracken. So if you missed the previous one or the one before, make sure you check it tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be talking about a bunch of things. So stay tuned for that. Also, if you're interested in this kind of content, of course, you have my books, Modern Survival Manual, Street Survival Skills, and Bugging Out and Relocating, available in the links below. I'm actually going to be using this book, Street Survival Skills, just to explain a couple things from this video. So there's some information that we still don't have. I would love to know the caliber used in this instance. I have no idea. If you do know that, let me know in the comments below. I'd like to know what caliber was used. We do know a few things, though. We know that he was shot in the head while lying in his bed in this condominium. We see that something that looks like a brick wall. I doubt he got shot through a brick wall, so this is either a plastic siding, which wouldn't surprise me, but it may be brick wall. And one thing they do pretty often is use nicer materials up front and use cheaper siding on the sides where it's less visible. So he either got shot through the siding or this is not brick, but I'm pretty certain he didn't get shot in the head through a brick wall. Usually brick walls are pretty good at stopping materials, and that's the first point I want to get into, which is, and yes, I'm going to be using Street Survival Skills. If you like this kind of thing, keep that in mind. It may be something interesting for you. So I try to simplify something that's very complex, which is ballistics, in a few little drawings. So a trash can, plastic sign, doors, or as you see in movies where they throw a table over and they just hide behind the table. That is really not something that's going to likely stop a bullet. Unless it's a stone, marble, a table, or a very thick metal table, or a very thick wooden table, looking at something like, something like this thick. Unless it's that, it's really not likely to stop a bullet from any gun. These materials that I just explained, even at 22, will go through most of these with enough force to kill someone on your side. Something that will stop a bullet: a tree thick enough to hide behind, a flower pot that's a feet wide, or an actual brick wall. Right? That's the kind of thing. Or cement block wall. Those are likely to either stop a bullet or reduce the energy, take enough energy so that it's not lethal on your side. There's a few bullets that, yes, may go through a brick wall with enough force to kill you. That's not likely the thing that most of these thugs will end up using on the street. So apparently someone fired like 50 rounds towards the building. I'm putting my bet on the most common big bore, 9mm. I think this was, if I have to make my bet, 9mm full metal jacket. That it's in most likely. Why? Because it is the most common, big bore caliber you have around. Could it be a 22? It could. Very unlikely. I'm gonna be going with either 9mm or maybe a 5.56. Who knows? A 5.56, depending on what hit, it's a lot more likely to fragment. So I'm going with 9mm, could be 5.56. Let me know in the comments if you actually have. We'll eventually know what was used. But my point with all of this is that most bullets will go through most of these materials that people don't realize. People don't realize that most houses in America have no ballistic protection whatsoever. Right? If this is brick, so be it. But most commonly, it's going to be that siding and that insulation that does not stop a bullet. So the bullet went through, covered all of these, 238 meters. That's 780 feet for you guys, which is nothing. For a bullet, that is not distance. It doesn't care about, a couple blocks. It's just really not changing the energy at all. Now, it impacts the siding, right? Goes through the siding as if it's not even there, because siding is no ballistic protection whatsoever. It went through the bedboard. So the board here in the back, it went through that and hit him in the head with enough force to kill him. Apparently, it was a large wound. That's the description that I'm reading from the article. So mostly the headboard from the bed, that is probably like compressed wood or some kind of material like that. It may be like like an empty frame, which would provide no protection whatsoever. But even if it's like a half an inch of wood or an inch of this compressed wood, 9mm is going to be going through it and still enough force to kill him. And even worse, it's likely going to be keyholing. So it's going to be tumbling as it goes through some material. And that tumbling is likely to cause even more damage. Sometimes when you're lucky or unfortunate, if this is a defense situation, using Full Metal Jacket 125 grain bullet, it's likely to sip through softer tissue. So maybe you get hit in the meaty part of your arm, goes through, doesn't touch any bone, and you're pretty good. If you're not bleeding because of some main artery that got hit, it just may be something that you recover from easily, especially when it's not hitting bone. When it hits bone, it's likely to fragment or can cause secondary projectiles that make the wound a lot worse. But in this case, that tumbling makes it worse because it increases the area when the bullet penetrates the body, and the amount of damage it does, it's going to be large, bigger than if it had gone straight through. So, all that being said, very sad, very unfortunate incident, but it's the kind of thing that happens in these places. And this is something I was reading in the comments from the article, someone saying, this is like getting hit by lightning twice. No, it's not. No, it's not like getting hit by lightning twice. That would be the case if you got shot in the head while resting in a cabin and some hunter a mile away shot a deer, missed, and you got the bullet, you got hit. That would be the lightning thing. This is Atlanta, Georgia. It's a place where, and this is something I researched quite a bit for Bugging Out and Relocating, which is a book that's selling very well. A lot of people are finally noticing that it's very important to do these kind of things. It's a bit more of the boring type of preparedness, more of the technical aspect of where you're going to be living, relocating in some cases. But one of the things I did in researching for this book is looking at homicide rates and crime rates, especially when you're looking at international scenario, you're looking at homicide rates, which is a lot more reliable and a lot more difficult to cook. Some countries still do that, but usually they get caught when you look at the transparency and corruption level of said countries. So in North Korea, they tell you that it's perfectly safe and fine. You're talking about damn North Korea, so you know that those numbers mean absolutely nothing. And the same thing for some places like Venezuela. Yet Venezuela, in spite of having a horrible socialist dictatorship, the homicide rate is records high. So those numbers reflect somewhat of what's going on. If you look at the United States and you see the crime rate, that's usually kind of reliable. If you look at the homicide rate, it's also telling a pretty clear story. The story it tells is that Atlanta, Georgia is a pretty dangerous place. So you may be living there and say, oh, I live in a very nice neighborhood in Atlanta, Georgia. Fine, good. I'm glad for you. But the numbers say that this kind of thing is a lot more likely to happen when you're living in Atlanta, Georgia, compared to a lot of much safer places. So keep this in mind. Be smart. This is part of the relocating strategy, or the strategy where you plan how you're gonna be preparing, where you're gonna be when things get worse than they are already, when the Great Reset continues on and our lives are changed in this manner. This is the kind of thing that if you look at some of the more dangerous parts of the world, I'm from Argentina, if you look at some of the poorest neighborhoods, some of the shanty towns in Argentina, you will find out that people often sleep on the floor. I've heard that many times. There's a lot of people that sleep on the floor because their houses, poor houses, offer no ballistic protection. It's not like this. It's actual, brick wall. It's gonna be offering a lot of protection, but in some of the poorest parts, the bullets go straight through the walls because it's again a cheaper siding or metal sheath or something like that, and they sleep on the floor because random shootings are so common that it happens often enough that people, completely innocent people that are not involved in any of that, get shot, catch a bullet, get a straight bullet, and that's why they sleep on the floor, just in case people start shooting and they get shot themselves. Folks, it's stuff to share with you, information for getting those gears going and thinking about what's your next step, how you should be preparing, the things you could be doing. That's going to be all for now. See you in our next video. Take care.